So today we're going to be loading up some 350 Legend, and what we're loading are these 180 grain jacketed soft points. These were actually 358 diameter, and I took my resizer and I resized them to 356 diameter. So that's what we're using. The brass that we're using is a Winchester new brass. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'll resize it. I am priming on the press, off the press. I could do it on the press, but I figure that doing it off the press, I just kind of like to feel better. It gives me, I know, a nice seat every time. So after I prime it, I'm going to come up and flare the mouth. And I am actually weighing out each charge. So I'm going to this charge, I am using H110 to load with, but I find it's easier. H110, when I try to put it on a automatic powder drop, it's just so fine it ends up leaking everywhere. So I'm just going to go ahead and drop each charge individually. Now my mouth is flared, charged, prime, set the bullet on there. And I noticed on this 350 Legend, it's very difficult to get this to pass through the gauge checker. One of the things I want to do is make sure that when you seat that bullet, that it's nice and straight and perpendicular. I find if it's offset a little bit, it makes that bullet not want to seat and not want to pass the case gauge. So now I'm going to go ahead and put a very light crimp on this, and you notice I rotate the case as I crimp it, as well as when I seat it, I'm rotating the case so I get a nice round that's going to pass my gauge checker. So again, new piece of brass. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to resize it. I'm going to prime it off the press. Go ahead and I'm going to bring it up and flare it. And it's very important that after I prime it, I bring it up and put it in the flaring die. This is also a die that you can charge right through it. I have been known in the past to forget to bring it up there, and then I go to drop my charge and it ends up dropping straight through and all over the place and creates quite a mess. So as I said, I want to make sure that that bullet is nice and sitting nice and straight on there. And as I seat this, I'm going to rotate it around quite a few times to make sure that that bullet is nice and concentrically seated in there. And I find when I do that, I have fewer problems with it passing the gauge checker. So now that it's in there seated, I'm going to go ahead and give it a very light crimp, and that light crimp is really just enough to pull the flare out of the mouth. You can see that these bullets, there is a very slight protruding in there when it seats, but it does pass my gauge checker fine. 350 round is one of those rounds that it's, I don't know, at least for me, it's very hard to get it to pass that gauge checker unless I really make sure that that bullet is nice and straight when I go to seat it. So I'm measuring it out, and I just find that it's easier just to trickle up to the charge I want. This is almost a full scoop of powder. This is where I want to take the time to make sure that I got it nice and straight. So I'm seating it a little bit more each time as I rotate that bullet around. I usually find that when I do that, I don't have any issues with it. You can see that one sitting a little bit proud. And I find that that is more problematic with a .350 Legend than any other case that I load for. It just seems like the tolerances are so tight on that. Usually if I twist it, rotate it, and seat it, you can see it pass my gauge checker fine. So now I'll go ahead and give it a very light crimp. And a very light crimp, you can hardly even tell that it does anything, but it does help pass the gauge checker. And I am shooting these out of an AR style rifle, so which is one of the reasons I'm full length sizing. And these are going to be hunting rounds, which is another reason why I'm hand weighing each charge. I'm not going to tell you my load data, but will say I'm using the H110 powder. Which is a very fine ball powder. This is what I was saying, that it helps to rotate that round around to make sure that the bullet is seated nice and square and concentric in that round. And that usually allows me to pass my gauge check. If I don't rotate it, probably I would say 7 times out of 10 it doesn't pass that case gauge. And I don't have that problem with other cartridges. Just that 350 Legend. When you seat those primers, you always want to check to make sure that that primer is seated nice and flush to the case. Again, as I say, after I seat the primer, I'll go ahead and run up my flaring die, so when I drop my charge, I know it's already there. And I could get my trickler out, but I find that it's usually just as quick to kind of trickle it up with the scoop. When I crimp it and seat it, I'm always rotating it about 1/3 of a turn. Check each round because I don't want to be out there hunting and have any problems with a case not feeding. So that's about it. I'll take you through this last one. So again, I want to make sure that that bullet is sitting nice and concentrically straight on top of that when I go to start seating it. If it's off a little bit, it's usually what gives me problems with and this crimp. I can barely feel it. Again, check the ammo. Drops nice. So I've got I think about 41 rounds loaded. I've got 9 left to go, and that'll be the end of it. So that's it. 350 Legend. That's the final cartridge right there. Again, using 180 grain soft point. These are an interlock bullet, so that jacket is locked to the core. So that's it. Using just a Lee turret press. I do have the indexing pin in, so it indexes between stations and it goes pretty quick. So thanks for watching.